If you're engaged in a job search, one of the things you are probably struggling with is getting and staying motivated to continue your search. This is a real challenge in the process because it is so inherently discouraging and frustrating. So, today I'm going to walk you through some basic tips for maintaining that energy level so that you can continue to move forward in this admittedly crummy process. First thing to keep in mind is that most people try to do too many things too quickly. The number of people I have talked to who say, I applied for 400 jobs in my first 2 months unemployed, it's shocking. And here's the thing. Applying to that many jobs, first of all, is unsustainable, and second of all, is not likely to be very effective. Why? Because you cannot possibly customize 200 applications in a 2 month period. So I recommend, for starters, that as you are applying for a job, you slow down. Don't go to snail's pace. Set realistic goals for yourself and pay attention to the times of day and days of the week when you have a little bit more energy to do this. You're likely to find a pattern as you go through this. I find, for instance, that with unpleasant tasks, I do much better if I get them out of the way in the morning, leaving the rest of the day for myself to do whatever else I want to do. So figure that out, see what works for you. I also, speaking of days of the week, I like to really think about this as something that I do regularly on a Wednesday. So Wednesday mornings, generally, I dedicate to getting through tasks that are just less fun for me. So whatever works for you is going to be a really good, solid approach to this. Second, in terms of the slowing down part of it, be sure you're actually applying for things that you would take. If a job description just sounds horrifying, if nothing about it appeals to you except that it's a paid position, don't apply. Back off a little bit, try to feel a little bit less of that very natural anxiety around finding something, and be a little bit choosy. Now, depending on your financial situation, you might not be able to be terribly choosy, but think through such things as what are you able to do physically? What are you willing to do? And what are you willing to do for a short span of time? Less than 12 months. These roles are going to be worth applying for, even if you're pretty clear that it's not something you're going to want to do for more than that handful of months. This is going to help you pull back a little bit so that you're applying in a way that makes a bit more sense. Now, I mentioned earlier that you're also going to want to tailor your resume. And yes, you absolutely are. I know it makes the process longer. That's kind of the point, right? So I'm going to link a useful tool in here that will really help you determine what you should be applying for and how to kind of bring the language of the job application to your resume so that you're much more likely to get past those applicant tracking systems and land an interview or several, ideally. So the point here really is to read through the job description as well as you can and note any of the pieces that you're very clear you have. Don't be too literal. Remember that most of us have bunches and bunches of experience that actually translate really well to other situations. So don't think of it as doing just this one task. Think about what that task means and how it fits into sort of a broader ecosystem of the world of work. For instance, if you have been a teacher, you have had to focus your courses, your lesson plans, so that a variety of learners can understand it. This is a really useful thing to be able to speak to in an application because you have adjusted what you say and how you say it so that a broad audience can understand it. So think through what that is. Be clear as you're applying for things about what your skill sets are. Next, as you are approaching this job search, find a strategy to get organized. I'm not going to tell you what that is because it's going to look very different for everyone. But think through how you tend to operate best. I like a calendar I'll put all of my stuff in the calendar. And the thing I have learned is that I can't just put in something vague, right? I can't say 11 to 1 apply for jobs because I won't do it. It's too fuzzy, it's too vague, and the time block is much, much too long. I like to break it down into smaller, more discrete tasks. So I'll say something like 8:30 to 9, consider opening a paragraph of LinkedIn profile. Short like that. I rarely go more than half an hour. And typically for these things, I will also set a timer for myself. When that goes off, if I'm really kind of in the zone, I obviously have the option to keep going. But if I have had one of those really tough times where I'm just sitting there staring at a blank page, when the timer goes off, I get to get up, have a little stretch, maybe get a cup of coffee, something like that to sort of change the flow of information in my brain. And if I feel really stuck on that particular topic, I will frequently change and do something else. That gives my brain the variety it naturally craves and lets me continue focusing on what I need to get done. I also usually have sort of an outline of all of the kinds of things I need to get done when I have a bigger project, like looking for a job. And then I try to break those down into best guess kind of timelines for each task. Whatever works for you is going to be fine. It certainly doesn't have to look like my system, but you'll want to find a way to keep notes and stay organized so that you are really consistently applying for things that generally appeal to you. Again, these don't have to be things that are going to be super satisfying long term. A lot of that is going to depend on what your particular finances are looking like these days and how much anxiety you're feeling around the job search. Then, one of the things you can do is find community. It's really motivating and encouraging to be amidst other people who are going through a similar challenge. In the job search world, one of the things you'll find is that a lot of other job seekers are incredibly smart people, very accomplished, very likable. You can't understand why these folks are having a hard time finding a job. And the nice thing is that's a little bit of a reflection on you. Chances are very good that you're not doing anything wrong. But the market is really tough right now, and it's a really frustrating time to be looking for a job. So you can find places, you can go to Meetup and find community organizations. You can go to sites like phil.com, Phyl, I think it's actually phil.org, which is a job search council that you can join. You can join places like lunchclub.com, which is just a networking organization. Or you can talk to friends and family and find out who else is in a situation like this. If you can, I recommend scheduling some kind of regular check-in with people. You can obviously do this on LinkedIn as well. This community building is really going to go a long way to making you keep promises you make, helping you to really keep moving forward in the process. And you can also ask people in those communities not to let you get too desperate. Because if you start applying just randomly for things that you would hate doing, you're going to have terrible luck with this process. You're probably going to get one of those jobs and then you'll be more miserable than you are now. So, this community piece is really important in the process. If you can, go through and update your LinkedIn profile to change your language a little bit, depending on what you are looking for. The easiest way to do this is to find other people with those titles and borrow any of the language that you like that those folks are using in their profiles. This will just keep you focused and keep your LinkedIn profile nice and sharp and up to date. If you haven't already, go through and make sure that you have that little background image in your LinkedIn profile. If you leave it alone, don't go through and edit, you'll get that kind of starry blue page behind your photo. Your photo, by the way, does not actually have to be a photo of you, but there should be an image of you that is somehow representative of you. And then the image behind you, if you don't know what to put in that, you can find lots and lots of free offers on Canva. The point is just to make it a little bit more personal. So it's very clear that you have been into your LinkedIn profile doing something active. Nice little way to update all of that. And then the last thing I'll say about motivation is find out your pace and give yourself rewards. What you'll find is that if you promise yourself, for instance, that you're going to spend 2 days a week finding things and applying for them, or if you have deadlines for yourself, or if you need to apply to a certain number of things in order to keep the unemployment insurance folks happy, whatever that is, there are a number of things that you will be able to get done within a certain time frame. And that can be just the goal you set for yourself to keep these things moving. Don't be unrealistic with your time frame. This has to be something that you're willing to keep doing, with the exception of keeping the unemployment people happy. It has to be something that works to you. So don't say, I'm going to spend 5 hours every single day applying for things, because let's be realistic, you aren't. It's no fun. It's discouraging. It'll make you feel like there's something deeply wrong with you. That isn't the case. So instead, make yourself a promise and begin small. Start with, I will spend 30 minutes next Wednesday thinking about things that I will apply for and things that are off the table for me. See if that half hour works. If it does, then you may have hit on your sweet spot of time. If not, play with it, adjust shorter or longer, see what works for you. But come up with that timeline and be very realistic in the goals that you set for yourself. If you go in with a full head of steam and just apply for every single thing you possibly can right away, you set that goal of 50 applications a week, what's going to happen is you're going to burn out. It isn't a sustainable number. And so you'll get all of that energy out just right up front there. And the job search these days is long. It's long and it's painful. So you want to be sure that you are proceeding at a wise and steady pace so that you can keep proceeding. Then I mentioned rewards. This is a really important piece of this process. I will say that some people do work a little bit better if they get punishments instead of rewards, but most people really resonate with rewards. So what you'll want to do is every time you set a goal for yourself, whatever that is, have a set of rewards ready to go. These can be small if they're small projects, and they can be bigger if they're bigger projects. I don't mean you should go buy yourself a new outfit every time you accomplish a task, but something that feels really good and rewarding to you. As the people in dog world say, I am very food motivated. So often what I'll do for myself is I'll get just a little course of something, some really nice chocolates or something like that. And when I'm approaching a task that I kind of don't want to do, something I've been putting off for a while, I will put one of those little chocolates right in my eye line. I can't quite reach it. It's sort of beyond the top of my computer, but I can see it. And I tell myself, if I get these 3 tasks done, I can have that treat. That immediacy of reward for these kinds of projects is really helpful because you get that little bit of an uplift each time you get through something that you have promised yourself that you will get through. All of the research tells us that with this type of reward system for yourself, the size of the reward and the uniqueness of it, that doesn't matter. What does matter is the immediacy of it. So figure out what your treat is for yourself and power through this process. And of course, one of the things you'll find is that you're just going to have days you cannot do this. You don't have the motivation, you don't have the energy, whatever it is. That's fine as long as it's short. If you have a day or two that you decide to take off your search process, that's fine. But you're going to need to find a way to make sure that you pick it back up in a couple of days, or it's just going to languish and you will find yourself in a really desperate situation. So suddenly you're the person who picks up the porta potties and drives them to the warehouse or whatever it is that would be terrible for you. So give yourself permission to take smaller breaks, day or two. Find that pace that works for you, think about those rewards, and really activate all of those other resources that can be helpful for you in this process. All right, I hope that's been helpful to you. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Let me know if you have questions.